So first and foremost, I wanted to thank everyone for joining our session today on the graduate enrollment management landscape, NAGAP discussion. Very excited to have some of our friends and partners from NAGAP here with us today for a great discussion, along with my colleague Jenna Briggs. Before we do, we just want to handle a few quick housekeeping items. First and foremost, as with all the other sessions at the Connection, this will be recorded and we'll be posting and sharing it out by the end of next week, just as an FYI to everyone. We do encourage, so this is obviously a panel discussion, and so unlike some of the other session presentations that you may have attended, we actually invite you to use the chat function within Zoom as we go throughout this session today. Obviously, Jenna and our panelists will be talking on a variety of topics, and whether you have any thoughts, opinions, questions around those topics as they're being discussed, I'll be watching that chat and we'll be trying to bring any of that into the conversation as best possible, either during or certainly at the tail end of the session. So once again, a little bit different for this session than others. Please utilize the chat function in Zoom for any interaction and engagement and questions that you might have throughout. Generally speaking, if you have any technical difficulties or if you have any questions about the conference in general, go ahead and email conferences at carnegiehighered.com and or go ahead and use the contact function within Whova as well for our staff. But without further ado, I do want to once again kick it over to our friends and partners at NAGAP, as well as to Jenna to get the discussion going. So thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Jenna Briggs, Senior Director for Enrollment and Marketing Strategy here at Carnegie. And it's my absolute honor to get to moderate this panel today with this wonderful, wonderful group of colleagues from all over the country. So I'm going to pass it over to Fran first to do a little bit of round robin introductions.
Great. Thanks, Jenna, and welcome to everyone this afternoon. Again, my name is Fran Reed. I am the Vice President for Enrollment Management and Marketing at Neumann University, right outside of Philadelphia. And my current role at NAGAP is Vice President.
Merritt, I'll pass it to you next.
Hi, everybody. Welcome this afternoon. Looking forward to spending some time with you today. I am the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at Sam Houston State University, which is about 40 minutes north of Houston.
Fantastic. And Brian.
And I'm the Education Chair for NAGAP. I almost forgot.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. All right, Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian Desrosiers-Tam. I'm the Assistant Dean of the School of Graduate Studies here at the University of Toronto, the other UT, so in Ontario, Canada, so for your neighbor from up north. I used to be on the NAGAP board. I was the Conference Summit Planning Chair for the past 2 years and have been highly engaged for the past, 6, 7, 8 years.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Brian, the second I said my colleagues from across the country, I immediately was like, no, I should have said, across North America. Okay, Brian joined as well. So before we jump into the topics we're going to discuss today, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that we have a very big election happening next week here in the States. And as this team met a couple weeks ago to discuss and ideate on the topics we wanted to have a conversation about today, we acknowledge the fact that this is, politics, policy, and its impact on graduate education is an important topic, and it could also likely take up the entire time. So we decided to discuss some other things. But again, it felt odd to not acknowledge that. And if that is something that you would be interested in, maybe learning a little bit more about, getting some research on in terms of the effects of, again, politics, policy, and the graduate education space, if you could please just throw a little yes in the chat, just kind of trying to gauge some interest to see if that might be some potential research that Carnegie and NAGAP could collaborate together with in the future. All right, now into the fun stuff. Fran, I'm going to start with you first, please. So we all know, and we've all heard a lot about what's going on in the undergraduate space in terms of the enrollment cliff, the demographic shift, all of those things. What is the pressure that you're feeling on campus and you're hearing from colleagues to offset those potential declines with growth in the graduate enrollment space?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And of course, the FAFSA debacle this year didn't help any of us dealing with whether even graduate students, but especially undergraduate students. Here at Neumann, we are, I would say, primarily kind of a more undergraduate focused. We have a little over 2,200 students, just under 600 graduate students, so a mid-size for an institution like ourselves. We know that it's going to be extremely difficult for us to grow our undergraduate population. We're heavy first gen, high amount of high need students, Pell eligible students. While that's a growing population, we also know that it takes a tremendous amount of resources as well. So we're not adding any large, football programs or anything that's going to kind of grow undergraduate enrollment. So there is a little bit more pressure on the graduate side. About 2 years ago, Neumann made a big initiative in moving most of our graduate programs into the online space. So we currently only have about 3 more on the ground programs. Those are our athletic training, DPT, and one of our education programs. So we've invested a lot to the online space for our graduate programs with the intention of kind of growing that population. It's been interesting because I think for those that don't work heavily in the GEM space, we know that you tend to pull still within a 60 to 80 mile radius from your institution, even if your programs are online. I think many feel that, well, if you're online, you can recruit everywhere, and that's not necessarily the case. So there a little bit is a tug and pull around that kind of conversation, but the expectation is we're going to maintain undergraduate enrollment and work on growing and adding new graduate programs.
Mary, anything to add into that?
Yeah, I think I would jump in. I think for us, I work at Sam Houston, which is a regional university in the state of Texas. And for us, our enrollments are not in a growth pattern like they were in previous years at the undergrad level. Different things have affected it. So they are looking at graduate to kind of shore up some of those enrollment numbers. And I would say one of the things that we deal with a lot is just that it's a lot of energy and focus that has come over towards grad, where we've not had to deal with that before. So there's been a lot of working through kind of those pressures.
And if I may, Jenna, I'll just jump in a little bit and I think, from our place, so at University of Toronto, massive research intensive institution, 21,000 graduate students, but half of them in the research stream and the other one in the professional master's area. It's not on the research part, it's not a growth model for us. It's a stable, there's no new big, research stream doctoral program. It's mostly in the professional masters that there may be growth there because of the revenue generation. I think the pressure we're facing right now, and I think all of us, even down south, is the international student component. We here in Canada just this fall, our government has introduced potentially a cap on the number of international students that can be admitted. And that's been very challenging. We're still learning and working through those details and what it means from a graduate enrollment sphere. But, like all of us, seeing drops in applicants from certain areas of the world, that's the pressure we're facing as we are a very international institution. So 25% or so of our graduate students are international. So we're keeping a close eye on that. And that's where I see our challenge in facing. Not much kind of replacing the undergraduate drop and the cliff that's coming, but certainly how do we keep our mission of being an international institution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, Brian, I know there was obviously just some data released, I think just this past week in terms of, at least for the states, for visa approval. Visa approval rates with significant declines in India. So I know that is something that is top of mind for U.S. institutions as well right now. I think,
and same with Canada.
Same with Canadian institutions. And I think again, throwing this question kind of out to anyone, those two things, right, grad and international, a lot of times are talked about in tandem in terms of growing those two populations on campus to help offset some of those declines that some institutions are experiencing at the undergraduate side. And I can only imagine that if international enrollment continues to take a hit, whether in the US or in Canada, that only ratchets up the pressures of grad. So when we're taking a look at, I do want to mention, Fran, you're already getting to it. Somebody asked a question about OPMs for online programs, and I'm sure I'm going to tuck that at the bottom, guys, because I'm sure we could have an entire discussion on OPMs. But if we do have time, we will get into online programs and OPM usage versus running out of in-home. One of the things I want to look at to kind of dovetailing off of my first question was, is there alignment between institutional demand in also the resources that it takes and a willingness and being able to commit to these? So couple different part question here. I just wanted to start off very high level. Is there an understanding? Do people on your campuses get that the things that you've done traditionally for undergraduate enrollment do not necessarily, translate directly to grad enrollment? So Mary, I'm going to start with you, and then please, friends, just kind of jump in as needed.
All right. Yeah, I think that our admissions directors certainly understand that, and they understand that graduate is different than undergraduate. I think the things that we struggle with is the timing of when an application becomes complete and getting an admission decision, because that, although we are a centralized office of admissions, our structure, and I don't think it's particularly uncommon, is that the decision resides with the academic program. So I sort of think of myself as the person who packages the applications and puts a bow on it and sends it over to the program for their admissions review. So it varies by program, and the admissions requirements and the time it takes for a student to receive their admissions decision varies. So I think that's been a hard message for us to convey to our institutional leaders as they look at growing graduate enrollment. So I think, to piggy off what Brian said, I think people are focused on our professional programs rather than our traditional on-campus research programs. And we also, for me at Sam Houston as a regional, I have a lot of grad programs that we're responsible for. We have 60 master's degrees, we have 8 doctorals, and then a ton of certificates. And that opens up a whole new playing field for us, because they are looking at credentials and certifications and certificates and stackable credentials, and grad students who might be non-degree seeking, or grad students that take an undergrad cert. So all of that is coming up to play. So I think we do have some management issues on our hands as well, with that organizational structure that kind of groups us together as a grad team.
And before anyone, sorry, Fran, I just wanted to ask a quick question on that, Mary. Is that something that, in terms of whether it's micro-credentialing, stacking of certificates, is that something that you at your institution found was really led by the academic side of the house, or was that you more from the enrollment management side of the house kind of pushing for those initiatives to go forward?
I think it's probably more of an enrollment management push as well. And because our structure is grad admissions is housed within admissions in enrollment management, we have that that play between business and academic ideas, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, Fran.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback a little bit of what Mary was saying. So I think for me, I'm fortunate enough that I have a seat at the table at the executive level. So when the decision was made to really put a lot of focus into graduate enrollment, we were able to you can't do it without additional resources. So there was that conversation. I will say where there's been some challenges is not everybody at the institution understands how it really works. And so going back to your initial question, I think people have different interpretations. Oh, if you're putting X amount of money in digital advertising, it should equal this. And we all know that that's not necessarily the case. So it's taken a lot of education to some degrees, especially with the program directors. So everybody on the admissions team has met with their program directors, and they've built a kind of recruitment strategy together. Mm-hmm. So both sides own it. It's not just an enrollment management function, it's both. And so, yes, there might be a portion that's digital advertising. Others may be, it's more about networking, attending associations, whatever it may be. There's a joint effort to understand that it takes both parties to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, Fran. That's something that, on my side of the desk, we see quite often is, institutions will look at us and they'll say, well, if I have X amount of dollars to spend, it's like, no, not all digital real estate, costs the same amount. And while, $50,000 may really move the needle for biomedical engineering, a smaller niche master's program, that's not a drop in the bucket for an MBA, which is typically traditionally the most expensive digital real estate.
Absolutely. And especially for an institution like Neumann, I mean, we don't have millions of dollars to throw out at that. So we have to be very, very strategic in what that does, and also be realistic that we're not going to be able to compete with some of the heavy hitters that are right in our backyard. So.
Absolutely. Brian?
I was gonna, I don't know if so I apologize if I kind of heard the question correctly, and I was gonna twist it to turn a little bit about, you were saying, the experience of the undergraduate model about recruitment, admissions, graduate enrollment management, how does it translate to grad? And I'll just maybe share, for us, I want to flip it. It's we've only recently launched a new CRM, and I'll remain agnostic about the name, but a new CRM. And that actually has opened up a different side of kind of the Pandora's box, where our graduate units and our colleagues were likely doing things a certain way for admissions and applications for grad, especially at the top of the funnel. Now that they see the toolbox that undergraduate were more used to, the drip campaigns, the building the forms, collecting inquiries, which they didn't really have to. Like a small graduate program, you can imagine the humanities, small staff, small numbers, would not have had access to this, would not have had the resource to launch that. But now that we have a centralized CRM, and it may be centralized, but it's very decentralized in its operation. And here at University of Toronto, it's only currently used for admissions. But it's all part of one package. So colleagues are seeing that, oh wow, it can do this, it can do that as well. And we're just, I guess, a pressure is like, one, yes, we'd love to provide support there, but we're not staffed yet to allow them to use what maybe have been the usual tools or the common tools that one would have used at the undergraduate. So there's a change in kind of, practice, I can do this, and we'd love to support them. We want to support them. So we're trying to figure out ways to build templates and all of that. We already know that the undergrad use, but how can that be, maybe more on the graduate professional program side, but still it's something they didn't have before. So I kind of flip, yes, it's different, but we can use some of the tools to maybe do differently as well. Only technology, and the new tools that are out there, the new companies that provide allow for this.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. And I know we had CRMs kind of down the list, but I think we should maybe just jump right into it. So you brought up some really great points. I mean, I know when I started in grad enrollment management, segmentation of comms was just like looking at academic programs. We weren't breaking out online and hybrid and then by motivators and popular, right? And it's getting so much more sophisticated, a lot of it being enabled by like you said, the technology, Brian, regardless of, or I shouldn't say regardless, but depending on which CRM you use. Mary, I know you definitely had some thoughts on CRM usage, best practices, trends that we're seeing. So I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be like my 5th CRM implementation, not all at Sam Houston State University. So I feel weathered in that space. And Brian brings up a really good point. When you're implementing a CRM, it is a completely different undertaking for undergrad than it is for graduates. So with our structure the way we are, although I process applications, there's other aspects that are under the care and keeping of the different academic programs. So a large challenge with that is bringing them on board so that they use the technology and the tools that are going to be available to them. So we push our applications out when they're complete to the programs to make their admissions recommendations. But now they're going to have access to a whole new suite of tools. We're getting a pretty comprehensive CRM that will have case management and Slack and all the things, all the bells and all the whistles. And it is really going to be an end-to-end tool. So I think one of the things that is the most challenging and one of the easiest things that you can do to help yourself when you start to undertake those types of things is to really understand the needs and requirements of each graduate program. And I call it the graduate information database. So I actually databased mine by program and put all that information. It's not student facing, it's the things that we need in our office to work with each program so that you can meet them where they are, so that when you spin up a CRM, you know exactly what the needs and requirements and deadlines and contacts, how they like to hear from you, what you have to do post accept, because you still have to matriculate the student. All of that information is really important at the graduate level versus undergrad, which has more of a one size fits all type of approach, where they're gunning for fall and a fall enrollment to look at their numbers. Grads all the terms all the time.
I can do a little hot pursuit on that one, Jenna.
Yes.
I know, as Mary says, developing that the graduate database about your program before you launch in a CRM implementation. And we had that same experience, and I wish Mary was with me, but we, onboarded 87 graduate unit, 300 graduate program. And it's really at that beginning of the, it's very simple. We all know this, how many of us are here, 142. It's not rocket science, but that you should collect the requirements and all beforehand, before you launch into CRM. But you should also, if you're able, use that time to look at your processes, right? Your business processes, and not replicate things that may not make sense, because you have one chance. Maybe you have more chance, but I feel you have one chance before you launch into an implementation that might bake you in for a while. And when we did our consultation, which was wide among our colleagues, we were able to analyze which fell into certain buckets and trying to guide people into bins. I might be, saying things that people will know with CRM we have, but into bins and processes where, trying to question, okay, we hear all your requirements, but have you thought of maybe doing this way to either save you some time? Now, some people are stuck in their ways. That's okay. So we have a way to align to that. But it's that key moment. So if anyone on this call is thinking about implementing a CRM, not only do the deep work of doing what Mary said, databasing all your requirements, but also maybe not slow down, but use that time to maybe improve, streamline your business process before you start programming, or not programming, but configuring your analysis. I wish we had done a little bit more of that, but it's a big change management, exercise. And when you're dealing with 300 plus program, you can imagine how it is. Mary says whether I have PTSD a little bit about our implementation, but I'm still here, so it's okay.
Yeah, Brian, so right, you got to really map it out. That is spot on. I think we're so accustomed just taking a certain thing and plot and hoping that it's going to work in another thing, and trying to get others to think about it differently is absolutely key. And we're always changing. So we'll have the application done for this cycle, and it's like, oh no, we needed to add this, or we need to change this. And then building comm flows is a whole nother energy and time to do that. And especially, I think you mentioned it, Mary, it's so different from undergrad in the sense that, yes, there's certain populations at the undergraduate level that you're dealing with, but at grad, in some cases you may have overlap between programs, but they're really very customized based on discipline. Plus, of course, no one is all starting at the same time either. We all have different entry points and start times. So that's just another layer. So it really is crucial, and when especially picking the right CRM to do it for you, and the right person.
Yeah, and you also have to think about, we're grappling here at SAM, our grad programs, a lot of them are online. We're now starting to convert some of those programs to 5 and 7 week programs. Yeah. So our admissions deadlines, for example, spring admission deadline is December 15th. Not for a 5-week program, it's going to be in March. So that really can throw a monkey wrench. And if you have automated decision rules, for example, in whatever system you're using, you have to really rethink a lot of that. So that is like a whole nother layer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Fran, you said it in the word or the phrase used was map it out. Absolutely. I cannot recommend that enough. At my previous institution, when I helped lead our CRM integration, we literally got out on the giant whiteboard as we're doing the reader review process and all the bin in drawing it out. Here at Carnegie, typically when I'm working with schools, I'll use a Miro board because this is the opportunity, as you all said, to shore up your practice, follow best practices, gain efficiencies. Just because you used to use an Excel file to calculate the last 30 credits for a particular graduate program doesn't mean it has to be done that way anymore. Let's be efficient. Let's get rid of as many integrations with external systems is possible in Go Forward. I'd be curious to know, any of you, your thoughts either at your current institutions or again, having conversations with colleagues, the benefits of utilizing just one CRM for all of those pre-admissions enrollment communications versus, there are a lot of institutions that will have one platform that they're doing all of their enrollment comms in, and then a student applies and everything application processing and post admit, comms come out of a different system. Any kind of thoughts to share on that?
Well, we share currently, we're in an aging CRM system. It certainly has gotten the job done. I don't have any complaints about it. We do share our instance with undergrad. So that has posed some challenges for prospective student marketing, because I have a lot of students that were former undergrads that are now grad students, toss in alumni and affinity type of students, maybe child of professor, that's a recommender. It can get fairly complex. So I think when you think about those systems, it's important that you use the right fields to identify where they are in those life cycles and in the funnel stage and the student type. We have all of ours in the same system, the prospect, the applicant, drip campaigns, and the accepted student communications. So those are all in the same system. The issue that we have is reporting for the state on enrollment data, because at a certain point, it's no longer relevant in your CRM where you have an applicant. So that's where our challenges lie.
Mary, does your IR department then pick it up from there if it goes into your SIS? Yeah.
We do, yeah, and we're a banner school, so
Yeah.
they set up a number of Cognos and Tableau type of reports to get out, and then that poses a challenge, and I'll put this out here for graduate because it is a thing. It seems uniquely for graduate. Why are your applications incomplete? And it's because they're missing a checklist item, and that differs by program. So trying to get that message out there has been challenging. That seems to always be my #1 challenge. We don't track those in our banner system. They're in our CRM.
Yeah, so we have a similar issue as well. Yeah, and I've worked at my previous institution. We had at some point we had 2 different systems, essentially, kind of the search, mind you, and then our CRM, and then eventually migrated into one. Well, we did 2 instances for both grad and undergrad, and I liked it like that. Here, we're using 1 instance, which you've already pointed some of the challenges with that, but it is what it is. It's still. I'd still recommend using 1 system overall for both whatever pieces you use. I found that when you're working in multiple systems, things tend to become trickier, and especially for identifying what source applicant or inquiries are coming through. Things get a little bit messy. So I do prefer myself working in 1 system for all those things.
Fantastic. Brian, anything else to add before we kind of move on?
Be great to have the one ring to rule them all. It's all about integration, right? So as you get, you can either have the one ring to rule them all, and I think it's lucky if one can do that. We are in a homegrown SIS here, and so it's all about how do these various tools, these CRM, these student support module, these workshop, the simplicity products, or I name something here, but all products, it's how do they integrate to each other? So if there's a robust APIs or robust tools, I think that can be okay. If they all talk to each other, as Fran says, if they're connected, not losing sight of that. But that, I think, as new tools come in, it's kind of caked in as what is released, this ability, knowledge already to be able to connect with the source key. But we have so many systems. I don't envy myself. You just have to remember what you do in which one and what you do. But I think that's just through the size that we're not unique, but it's just 17 faculties, so large.
Yeah.
Trying to make it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that, as we work with colleagues across across the landscape here. So one thing that's always been very unique about graduate education, graduate admissions, is that we reside in various different places on campus, where an undergraduate admissions office is almost always under a division of enrollment management. In the graduate admission space, you can be in a graduate school, you can be in enrollment management, you can be under the provost in academic affairs, right? It really can run the gamut. One of the things that we are starting to notice a trend in here from colleagues is that there is becoming more and more of a role being played on the academic side of the house within this conversation, whether it is in decision making within the enrollment management space, or the controlling of the purse strings of budgets for marketing programs. So Brian, I'm going to throw it to you first. Are you noticing any of those different trends in what are some of the tools that you use, knowing that data plays such an important role in helping to persuade our colleagues, and whether it's to launch a new program or marketing support for a current program? Can you share some of those different what you're seeing on your campus and some of those tools that you utilize when working with the academic side of the house?
Yeah, and I think for us, I don't know if we're different, but maybe to us, the academic side of the house is always prime. Is always key. So there's always been a deep involvement here at our institution. So to me, when I remember when we were talking about this beforehand, right? It's like, oh, that's my life. So it's okay. As far as I feel anyway. So maybe I'd be different if I was at another institution, or my two other previous were maybe a little bit different. And data is a big element, right? As you either prepare a new program proposal or you prepare a campaign, a marketing campaign, is how do you provide the data that may be helpful to our academic leader, who do ultimately here decides on what some of the directions for the program. So some of the tools we've used, and maybe I can talk about, great opportunity and maybe a little bit of challenge because we're facing that right now, is using data visualization tools. So for here, there's two big ones that you're aware of, all of us, Power BI and Tableau. But we've been really, for the past 10 years, really putting data, both publicly and internally, out there, and a lot of data on time to completion. So if we look at just kind of the graduate student life cycle after they've admitted, but time to completion, admissions, time to completion, funding rates, funding level, if there are funded students, and then also now with our student satisfaction surveys, also the results of those are published, both to be data transparent, have that's one of our motto here, transparency to students and prospective students, but also to our leaders. So our leaders, academic leaders, or graduate chairs, or vice dean or associate dean graduates, or a dean of single department faculty who are graduate, have then their own set of dashboard with data about their program, and they can make informed decision about, their cyclical review, accreditations, or next step. So that's been quite helpful, I think, for us, providing that instead of a static dashboard or them asking questions, you can get there, pick up the data. So I think that's how we operate. But I've noticed over the past couple of years that we may have become, there may be a little bit of Tableau fatigue. There's too much data almost. And our academic leaders don't necessarily have the time to go spend an hour or maybe more just looking at the dashboard, seeing the trends and things. And they do expect, I think rightfully so, that we digest that insight and give it to them in a one-pager or whatever it is. So I think we will continue. We won't lose sight of providing that data directly to them. So our admissions, even our chairs now can see in a live basis, where in the past it didn't necessarily, in our old CRMs didn't have to. And you might say, oh, welcome, Brian, to the 1990s. But no, here our grad chairs have access, and they can see the numbers of offers and application and see the trends and compare to last year. And that's great. It's all in the Tableau site, and they can all see within their faculties or across. But that's one Tableau of so many. So not that I'm worried, I'm really happy that we're providing a lot of data, but is it being used? Is it being used? Is it being used? We want to say that we're a data informed, that our leaders make data informed decision, and I know they do. But if we throw them so much, it might get lost in all of that. So that's one challenge that we have. So it's a great thing, but it's one challenge that we have that we're trying now to rethink. Okay, how can we not pull back, but give them the information they need to make a decision?
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. Well, that data transparency and the ability to share is incredibly important. I think it's definitely our role to contextualize and synthesize, right? Like you said, make it easy, make it usable. Mary?
Yeah, and I wrote down what Brian said about maybe thinking about providing a one-pager annually. You know, we reach out to our programs at the conclusion of the catalog publish cycle to tell them what I think I know about their program when I process their applications, which kind of leads in, I think we've got a question on the chat. And we are a centralized grad admissions office, and the review decisions are housed within the program or the academic units. And we manage the communications on their behalf. We provide them an opportunity to look at what we send and give us their feedback. So they are set up so that they are set up by major. So I have, 100 communication plans. It would be one each by every master's, doctoral, and cert program.
I call it data coma, Brian. It's like I feel like there is a lot of data out there, but no one really, I find there's a lot of people who just don't have the time to really take a look at it. For us, I would say in our CRM, if you go prior to 2019, forget it. Like, let's not even bother looking at it. It's not good data, period. But from 2019 till now, anything related in our CRM, so lead generation all the way through app complete, I think we have really good data we can share. Where it gets sticky for us is we are a colleague institution, and up until recently, we just added self-service and some other modules, but we're not there yet. So data is housed in different departments and it hasn't quite come together. And so I think especially on the graduate side, we're late to the game because I think a lot of the focus, is looking at undergraduate retention. I've asked the question before, what is our graduate retention? And I get blank stares, because it just hasn't been something that discussed before. And we could probably have a whole other conversation about, graduate students and retention and all that kind of stuff. But I really do think, I call it data coma. It's really hard to navigate in some cases. And so I prefer to do it in smaller chunks. And so when people ask us for certain information, I try to get at the why. What are you trying to do with it? Because I'll have my poor CRM person running reports until she's blue in the face, and then nothing happens with it. So anyway, more of an antidote than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, with the about 5 minutes that we have left, I wanted to maybe finish it out with asking each of you, in the context of everything that we've discussed today in the changing landscape within GEM, what is in your mind, ideal, the skill set of the ideal GEM professional today? Brian, I'm going to start it off with you and then ask others to chime in as well.
Sure,
Please.
I'll be really quick because I think it's because we're experiencing this transition in my team here, in my student academic services team, where we used to have individuals who were processing data, and rightfully so, they needed to do that. So it was frontline service, getting data in our SIS. And we've changed those roles, and we're still in that transition. And we've elevated the type of skills and requirements they need because we wanted to start building really a track for a GEM professional. And the ideal skills for me, it's not, yes, your knowledge about enrollment, admissions, recruitment, marketing, but it's an ability, and this is going to sound so cliche, but an ability to connect the dots. That you're not as a single individual, maybe in the student academic services team who, process forms and requests, but as you get the form or the request from the students or whatever, you can start thinking, it's like, oh, wait, this has an element of, I'm going to make this up, a financial aid component. Okay, I need to connect them with my colleagues who are just next door or upstairs, virtually or in person. Oh, the student seems to be struggling. Do I have some mental health or some wellness support that I can also recommend? And not just thanks for your form and off I go. Is that there are in this continuum of graduate enrollment that you may be working in this part of the life cycle, but think about all the way downstream how it might impact. So it's very simple, and I'm sure Fran and Mary will have a couple. But to me, it's just connecting the dot and hiring individuals, and we've done that. And I'm really happy with the team we have just hired like a couple of months ago, who have shown an ability to do that. It's a work in progress. my colleagues, I think we'll be able to report, and I think we'll talk about NAGAP maybe if we have time. But anyway, it's a work in progress. You can hear more about at the NAGAP conference, hopefully in April of next year. But to me, that's that. I know it's very cliche, very easy. It's like how everyone can sit there, but it's hard to find the individuals who can do that, and we're working with them closely on that.
Brian, spoken like a true conference chair. Doing the plug.
Yes, I'm pushing.
Yeah, well, Mary and I have both been working. So NAGAP actually has developed core competencies of a GEM professional, and we do have that resource available. And it is much like you said, I'm reading off of it now. It's, looking at career staff and personal development, knowing money matters, recruitment and marketing, and the kind of the student life cycle engagement and support. And there's kind of characteristics and qualities that kind of fall within those buckets. And I think to be a well-rounded GEM professional, you don't have to have all those components. None of us do, but you need to have some of those key measures. And I think that's what helps define what a GEM professional is.
I agree. And I would say, it's instinct to hire off of a resume, but I think that because graduate tends to be a little bit niche at many institutions, we are going to be training the individuals that we bring onto our teams with the particulars, with the technology and the way things work. And I would also agree that NAGAP it's really the only resource available for graduate enrollment professionals to learn in their discipline and grow and develop the skills that you need to be adept and flexible and listen and develop well within your team and be able to represent the different things that are going on at your school.
Again, and a quick little plug about the annual event, right? NAGAP, we were all part of that. Colleagues of you on this call may be. Great institution, great group. And going to the annual conference allows you to also, yes, you may go on a track on the sessions that you're interested in, but to be a good GEM professional, yes, you need to be aware of the other. And the conference allows you to do that. There are hundreds of sessions, right? 68, almost 100 sessions. And then you can kind of step out of your normal laneway and say, I'm going to sit in that area to kind of listen. Okay, this is what they do here. This is what they do there. So sign up. Yes, do attend. It's a great time.
And I will put an additional plug in there. In addition to the many sessions, like Brian and everyone mentioned, the sessions and at the conference and the resources that are available through NAGAP Online, it's also a phenomenal opportunity for either those new in the profession or those that have been in the GEM space for years to network, to find mentors, to get these and build your little sounding board so that you can have conversations like this anytime, because I think none of us are experiencing these things in a vacuum. It's not isolated. So having, colleagues that you can have these conversations go to for resources is a great thing. And NAGAP is a wonderful place to find those folks. All right, panelists, we are at time. Any parting words that anybody did not get in? Well, if not, we thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you again, Fran, Mary, and Brian, for agreeing to serve on this panel with us. And thank you to the 140 plus folks that we had joining us as part of this conversation today. Mark, any housekeeping things to finish us off?
No, I just wanted to also echo your thanks to the panelists and everyone joining. It's always great just to hear the discussion and see the kind of collaboration between everyone at NAGAP and so many of the leaders. So thank you again for that. And I just want to touch on a few of the housekeeping items as we wrap up the session here and look towards the remainder of the Connection Conference. So so again, a reminder that we are recording this and we will be posting it by the end of last week. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to our conferences at carnegiehighered.com as well. Please make sure in the Whova app to check out the remainder of the agenda for both today as well as tomorrow throughout the entire day. Our next session coming up at 3 o'clock is from our friends at Unibuddy, Confidence Matters, New Actionable Insights to Improve Enrollment Predictability. So we do invite everyone to join that session as well and hope you have a great remainder of the day. Thanks again, everyone.